Hey, Team Qualified, welcome to Single Yet Qualified to Speak podcast, where your hosts, Bianca and Michelle, just talk about relationships and doing it with God. Listen in. Hey guys, it's your girl Bianca.
And Michelle.
And we are the hosts of Single Yet Qualified to Speak. We have such a special day today.
I know, I'm so excited.
Very excited. We have some people that are close and dear to our heart, our sisters, our friends.
Absolutely.
We're going to have them introduce themselves.
So my name is Kadia.
Hey guys, my name is Shay.
Yes, and we're excited to have our friends here because, I mean, we talk outside of the show, and one of the things that we take pride in on our show is being able to take our conversations out of the group chat and bring it to the public, right? And so for the top of the year, we wanted to do something special and have our friends with us. So, hey, friends.
Hey, friends. Yeah, I think it really speaks volume to this platform because one thing that we wanted to do is definitely have perspective, right? So for the last few weeks, you guys have been hearing a lot from me and B, but a lot of things that we've learned, we also learned through our relationships. Yes. So we wanted to bring some of our teachers in the room, right? Right? So that we could all share. You guys can kind of get a different perspective on different topics. So yes. I'm excited to see what this episode
Very
brings.
excited, right? Y'all good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Y'all ready?
Yep.
All right.
All right, so we're in a new year. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yes, it's 2025. And one of the beautiful things about going from an old year to a new year is that we have an opportunity to assess, right? And I love how people just get on their game about, like, new year, new me, even though, you know, sometimes it's kind of wild. But new year, new me, I'm ready to make some changes. I'm ready to, you know, make adjustments. And one of the areas that some people don't really make resolutions in is like relationships, right? Friendships, family. We usually talk about like our goals and we got the money and make money. Exactly, right? So it's usually about like that type of growth, but growing in relationship, I think is very important for us to talk about. And so let's just dive in a little bit with when it comes to resolution. If you were to make a resolution for 2025 regarding relationships, like what would that be for you?
Well, for me, I think it would be actually creating more sisterhood. I think for a lot of years, for me, I kind of shied away from like relationships, especially like Christian friendships and Christian relationships. I came back in the church, and for me, I just wanted to just know God. Me and God, I just want to know God, because I felt like it kept my church space safe, right? Which meant that I looked at sisterhood as not always being safe. So I think one thing that last year take away from me from last year was just getting healthy sisterhood, healthy relationships inside the church that kind of spoke, you know, like not just to like my personal, but to my spiritual growth. So that was definitely a takeaway from me.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. So you was like the Jesus is my boyfriend type of girl?
Yeah, Jesus is my boyfriend, my friend, my daddy. Jesus, everything.
Heard you.
For me, so automatically the word that I set for my year is intentional. So I feel like that's what I'm taking, even in my friendships and my relationships, is being more intentional with where I set my boundaries, where whatever I'm setting in my relationships, I want it to be intentional. So that's the growth where I am allowing people to be in a space, because that's the thing too. I feel like I cut off a lot of people if I felt like, okay, you hindering me or you holding me back, to the point that I cut off people in my unhealthy state. I cut off people that should have been there, you know. So it's me just being more intentional about assessing myself, but also assessing the people that's around me.
That's good. That's good.
Love that.
I think for me, it was around like letting people in, and not being afraid to show who I am. Like I'm not too much, right? Because for me, I'm like, I'm too much. I got too much going on. You don't need to see that side of me. Like you only need to see the side that's put together, because the other stuff is just too much, and I don't know if you will still value me when you see the other stuff.
That's good.
And so it's like exposing that lie.
Right.
All of me is worthy of
All
friendship and healthy relationship.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. To bounce off of what Kay said, when it comes to boundaries, I think my resolution for 2025 has been standards. Because I just be letting anything pull up sometimes, you know, and whether that is in intimate relationships, whether that's in friendships, I think for me, understanding what the standard is, because even with the Bible verse that talks about throwing your pearls before swine, I haven't been able to master that, because you know, we always think that we are the healer and the savior and the one that puts everybody together. And so I think for me now it's understanding that that's not my job.
Hello.
And I actually don't want that job.
Right.
Like, I have fired myself from
There
operating like that, and then just knowing what the standards are to get better, right? So I'm just looking for better in 2025.
Yeah, you know, and the takeaway from me for Shay was that, you know, I always try to be a safe space, but I never try to find a safe space, you know. And then what you said about like having to show up, always having to show up a certain way, like even I feel like even in like my church environment, people are always so used to me like laughing and joking that if I do come and I don't have to be sad, but I just don't have the energy today. I feel like a lot of people are like, are you good, you gotta be dying, you gotta be you know, and I'm just like, I'm just tired, you know. So I think that it's important for people to know, or have friends that just know, that understand you, that understand your highs and your lows, or even just like your neutral days, you know. So that was also a takeaway for me from last year.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, I think that for us having these resolutions and what we're looking forward to, when it comes to expectations and the things that we expect from other people, or we expected for people to do, I always hear this saying or this phrase that like, don't expect a you. You know what I mean? And I think one of the hardest things, whether it's in the areas of friendship or in the areas of being with somebody, we always have these expectations that are mirrored from our experiences, what we believe, how we think, and we kind of rarely set ourselves up to say like, all right, this person is this person, accept them for who they are. I remember in therapy, my therapist used to always tell me like, if he never changes, like, are you good with that? And that was a hard question for me, because I'm like, why would he never change?
That's a real question. I am not okay.
Right. So my expectation, even that I have for myself, is that we all grow. You know what I mean? We all develop. But that was real for me. If this person, if this friend, if this partner never changes, like, are you good?
You know, for me, I think people have to be very careful when it comes to like that line, like, don't expect you from other people. And I think people think that means not to have expectations, and I'm like, so you shouldn't expect what you give, right? But doesn't mean that you shouldn't still set a standard. It shouldn't still have an expectations. And I think I've made that mistake in the past, where I've entered into relationships and situations, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna be awesome, and it doesn't matter if they're not awesome too, I'm gonna be awesome. And then it's like I end up getting like the short end of the stick, because I didn't come in with any expectations. And then eventually in that, at some point, you realize that you actually do have expectations, you actually do have needs, right, that need to be met. And if you don't set an expectation, then it always gets missed for you, right?
Real talk.
Yeah, and I'm not making that mistake again. So I think I just wanted to clarify that even though you can expect what you give from people, you still have to set a standard. You still have to have an expectation. People still need to know what you need, like, and what's important to you.
Exactly.
But I think that's why it's important to understand the balance between expectation and boundaries. Because it's like two different sides. Like your expectation, you know how they say like expectation breeds disappointment. So if you go into it with that, then you will think negative, because then you're like, oh, let me not set no expectation.
Right.
But if you understand your boundaries, then you're able to say like, this is my boundary. The expectation meets up to this point. Right. So if you overstep it, I'm able to step back without disrespecting myself or disrespecting you, which will still create a healthy relationship.
But I think it's also understanding that boundaries, along the same line, they're two different things, right? Like, boundaries, I am not willing to go past this.
Right.
Because when we go past this, something happens.
Right. Yeah.
But an expectation is, how do we show up in this space, right? Like when you're setting expectations, right? When I was a teacher, for my math class, sit up, that is an expectation.
Right.
So it's like, you know how to show up in this space so that we can be successful.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we understand, or we think like, oh, this is my expectation, but that's your want. That's not an expectation.
Yeah.
You can want something, but an expectation should be something that everybody is aware of,
right?
And that we are aligned on.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Like, it's similar, you know, we say rules, but it's really like the expectations. This is how we show up in this relationship. If it's not aligned, and if everybody don't know your expectation, that's just something you desire.
Right. And I think making it clear too. Like
Yes.
I literally have, like, I grew up with a lot of male friends, and I used to be like, yo, women are confused. Like, cause we say things sometimes, and then like, well, no, we're okay. Everything's okay. No, I don't mind if you go out late. And then he goes out late. You're like, why you ain't come out? And he's like, well, you just said. Like,
Yes.
so making it clear,
Yes.
right? Because I think that goes back with even just spending some time. Like, we have expectations for other people, but setting expectations for ourselves, right? And I'm just like, sometimes we don't even know what we truly want.
You literally just took the words out of my mouth. I was about to say, sometimes we don't know what we want. I was just telling Shay and Kay before this that when I'm talking to guys now, I'm asking them two very pivotal questions. If you can't answer those questions properly, there's no
What's
sense
the
in
questions, me?
The questions are, number one, do you smoke anything?
Okay.
All right? I don't care if it's weed or crack.
Okay.
I need to know,
Jesus.
do you smoke anything?
Smoke anything? Are you high right now?
Am I going to see smoke come out of your
It's
mouth?
a walk in the
at
straight
any
line.
time?
Walk in the straight line.
Right. It's that type of party. So they say, no, okay, cool, great. We can move forward. Do you believe in Jesus Christ? And what is your daily practices with that? That never used to be a question of mine. It used to just be on some, do you believe in God? Right? But nowadays, God be the table for people.
Yeah.
I need to know, do you know Jesus as your Lord and Savior? I'm not saying that you got to be in church every day. I'm not saying that you got to have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted, but I need to know that is a pillar for you, right?
Well, why did that change for you though?
It changed for me because I settled with a lot of relationships where people were okay with telling me that just to get past the door. And then when I saw their everyday life, it's like, oh no, you don't know Jesus.
No, but I'm asking why were you okay with that, right? Like that's
Why was I okay with it before?
like accepting that.
Because, and I always talk about my idol of companionship. And when you have an idol, you don't check nothing at the door.
Right.
It's like, I just need to be loved.
There you go.
Yeah, I feel like that was
Yeah.
me. Like I was like, okay, I'm turning 30, career, graduate my master's. We've been together for 4 years. Yeah, we gotta get married.
Right. Right.
No,
Yeah.
Right.
that ain't it.
No. Right.
No, real talk. That's major though. We have to know what we want.
We have to know.
And we gotta, like you said, state it clearly. And that's the part that later on down the line, especially when I was married, it was a lot of things that I did not talk about. We didn't have conversations about things that came up later. And it's like, yeah, I saw the red flags. Because a lot of people like to say, oh, but you saw the red flags. But I didn't identify them as red flags because I didn't have a standard.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how could I see this as something that's alarming when it's not a standard for me?
Wait, two things that you guys both said. You said that God is a table, right? And you talk, like, I think one thing that I noticed when you talk about, like, this list, right? I think a lot of times that we happen, like, as women, right? And as we get older and as we are in the church, we feel like we have to do this check off, right? Like, oh, so yeah, I had this and I did that. And if I'm not married, then I didn't do that. And I think that's why we kind of go into it without, like, realistic expectations, or we just kind of take anything because it's like, okay, if I show up with him, right? No one's checking the spirit. No one's checking the heart. No one's checking the bank account. Right? No one's checking any of the things that need to be checked in Jesus' name, right? Hello. But because we show up with him, people make you feel like you have actually, you reached a thing, right? And it's like, wait, but no one is actually thinking about what you have to do it when you go back home, or what you have to do it during the week, and all those things. So I'm like, I think when we make the checklist, we have to actually make sure that the things that are important are on the list. On substance, and not just the time frame, because I think we do checklists by time frames and not by, like, actually real goals or real needs or real, or even God's timing. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And knowing that everybody has a different checklist. I don't want your checklist.
Hello.
Because you may be okay with certain things that I'm not okay
That
with.
part,
Right?
That part.
Like, one of the major things for me, too, is if somebody doesn't have friendships, I'm good on that.
Listen.
That was never important for me before until I was married. And that man, I was about to say another word, but that man didn't have no friends. And that drained the mess out of me.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, who are your friends?
Yeah.
Like, what's the nature of your relationships? For that to be a question, and sometimes they thrown off guard, like, why she asked me that? But I need to know. That's important for me. But other people, they may think, I was watching Pop the Balloon one time, and she was like, how do you feel about friends? And he was like, oh, I'm not really friendly. Is just she was like, good answer. So for her, that wasn't a standard. You know what I mean? She wanted to be my man,
Yeah.
and I'm cool, my man.
Plus,
Be
low key, my
Your
man.
I am.
I'm like, my man go for a walk. Walk the dog.
The skin has an alarm clock, okay? I want to be in your skin for a certain amount of time. When the alarm go off, go with your friends.
Okay.
But
So-
also, who's checking you?
Right. Who's your
Right?
accountability
Because
partners?
who's your accountability?
Yes.
And I'm
I
thinking,
think
like,
that's so
when you said the
important.
checklist, I think what popped in my head is, like, we have a checklist for everybody else, but then we don't have a checklist for ourselves. And so it's like, how's your heart?
Yeah.
That part.
Where's your mental?
That part.
Like, where's your head?
Yeah.
Where's your emotions?
Yeah.
Where's your credit score?
Yeah.
And like, when
Where's
I
your
took-
credit
You get what I'm saying? Because like
score?
I do have homegirls that I want this, I want that, I want that, and I'm like, but you're not bringing any of those things.
Let's
to
talk
the
about
table.
that. Let's
So
talk
like,
about
we
that.
want, you want the man
Let's
to
talk
provide
about
all
that.
of these things, but you can't even do it for yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's like I feel like it starts with us first
Has
because
to.
when you get married, none of it shuts off.
Yeah.
It magnifies.
Hello. It's a whole mirror.
Like it just
Yeah. There's
it
nowhere.
just,
There's
the
nowhere
heat
to
just
run.
turns up.
I'm like, literally, there's nowhere to
No,
run.
seriously.
Like, you have
Seriously,
to deal.
you have to face yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Face yourself.
On a whole
And that's
nother level.
and that's so real because some people will, like, they want people to deal with them, but they would not be able to deal with themselves. And I'm talking about male and female, but definitely females. Like the attitude,
Yes.
like the personality. You talking about the bank account. You talking about the credit score. You talking about all the things. Like you want people to supply or to or you pay for a standard that you can't keep and as much as yes, a man should be a provider, he needs a fallback plan. Things happen. You talking about marriage, so, God forbid you wake up one day he loses his job, God forbid he gets sick, what is he gonna, he needs security too, right?
And mind you, that happened to me.
Yeah,
I got married September and my husband lost his job November.
There you go.
Like,
And not a
real
pivot.
life.
There you go.
Like,
And if it had not been
Thanksgiving,
for Jesus,
holidays, everything.
yeah.
So what do you do?
So what do you do?
My ex-husband came off the boat.
Goodbye.
He didn't have no job, no money.
Copy, ain't go back on the boat.
Well,
There you go. Special delivery.
Let's go to the beach.
No water.
But yeah, it was real because I had to take care of this man to the point where if we want to go a little bit deeper, I signed paperwork that said that he was my responsibility, like a whole liability, a whole dependent that didn't come out of me. Like it was that.
Yeah.
So being the only breadwinner, and then just dealing with somebody who was lazy. Like he got comfortable with that,
So my question is, did you not know he was lazy in the beginning because you were so, like, how did you miss that he was lazy? Like, why did you agree to sign up to provide for him?
Well, remember before we were married, we were dating, so we weren't living together or anything like that. People could talk the good talk. I knew his situation about him not having his green card, so that wasn't a secret, right? But I think for me, I just connected West Indian with working. Like, it's like, you can't be lazy. You're a West Indian man. That just, it don't go together. You know what I mean? And no shade to the Americans. But
Mexicans, you mixed it up. You got the Mexicans.
You got the wrong one.
yo, no, because usually the stats is that they might cheat a little bit.
Little.
They might be a little bit wild. But working, that was like, I see my uncles, I see my cousins, I see my dad. You don't think lazy when you think West Indian man. And again, when you're thinking companionship, you are not putting all those factors in play. You're just thinking, I just want to be in love. I want to be loved. I want to be cared for. And I want the title of a wife because I have arrived. You know what I mean? Like, this is like the pinnacle place. When you get married, it's like you got it. That's the prize.
Yeah.
So I think for us, definitely with this conversation, which we could talk about for days, because we all have stories that just speak to us not knowing what we want, what we value, and how that led us into places. What does 2025 look like for you when you think about, I could take this L that I took maybe last year, or these lessons that I learned about boundaries and standards, and now I know that for 2025 I just don't want to do that anymore. Like, what does that look like for you guys?
I think for me, I think honestly, if I'm being 100% transparent, I'm still creating that, you know. My takeaway, and honestly is a positive takeaway, is that there are healthy relationships still. There are good friends still. There are good men still, you know. I think for a lot of, after I got out of my relationship, for a long time I didn't feel like there was good men. And I think that's kind of why God gave me a son. You know, I remember one time praying over my son, and I was like, God was like, you have to change your mindset of men, because you're raising a man. And if this is what you feel is the only bar that they could reach, that means it's only where he could reach. And I was just like, wait, no, like, Jason's gonna be a great man, you know what I'm saying? He's gonna be the only great man in the world. No, but then God really checked me, you know, and I'm like, you know, God has a real sense of humor of how he teaches lessons, you know. And now I'm like, okay, as I'm raising a son, I'm raising a man, then I have to believe that there are good men out there. And that perspective opened me up to, oh, they're good friendships, they're good females, they're good, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are good jobs, there's good co-workers, you know, because sometimes that trauma will really make you feel like you count it out, and not even that you truly believe it, but it's like you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment, so you just kind of say it's not really there, it's no longer existent, because now you don't have to search for it, and if you never get it, you feel like it's okay because it wasn't there. So now I'm just like, no, there are good things out there, and if I'm a good thing, and I allow God to order my steps, he's gonna lead me to good things, right?
So good. I love that thing that you said about hold on, let me remember, because it was something you said and it made me think about something Shay said earlier when she asked me, like, what made you think like that, or what made you want that. And it's like this attraction thing, that if we don't deal with ourselves, then we'll always attract at the level of where we are. You know what I mean? And I think that that's my biggest takeaway, that why were those guys into me? Like, we could talk all day like, oh, they trash, they did this. Like, I encountered a lot of bad communicators, right? Why was that my space of attraction? Like, why was that my level of attraction? What was it in me as well? And not that I'm taking away from them taking responsibility for their inability to communicate, but we also have to also look at why was that my height, you know? And for me, now that I'm in a new year, the questions that I ask are not just to probe, like, oh, I deserve this, I deserve that, but no, like, I'm thinking differently now. So my level of conversation before we even jump into anything is different. Like, I need to know certain things because my mindset has changed, my belief system has changed. And this is what you said. You said about God telling you not to believe certain things about men and what they do. He convicted me about saying, like, the dating pool it got pee in it, or like or like yes. Or like, my God, you know, like you said, there's no good men out there. I get convicted now when I say that, because it's like, how can you believe a thing and then think that you're gonna attract anything different? You know what I mean? Like, you're only gonna attract at the height of your belief system.
And I believe limit God too. Let's talk about that. Like, when we say that there's only a certain level of things out there, then we contradict what the Bible says, that there's good things and all things are gonna work together for our good. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knows that he has good plans for us. Okay, those are biblical things. So it was like, if God has good plans for me, then there has to be good things left for me, right?
They just may not be in New York.
They on their way. They might be enjoying them.
She's not going back there.
No comment. I love Jamaicans. Clearly. But anyway.
Next episode.
Anyway, what I feel like I'm taking away is, I feel like in 2025, I'm learning more about me. Because I feel like having 3 kids It's like you pour.
Yeah.
And sometimes you deplete yourself where you don't really have time to get to know yourself per se, right? Yeah. And I know people say that that's something you should have figured out way before, right? But I feel like with me, it's like now having 3 kids, trying to navigate through life with 3 kids. It's things that I'm learning about myself, and it's also things that I'm unpacking about myself. Yeah. So even sometimes I feel like I'm kind of triggered with my childhood trauma, and that sparks up because then it brings me back to why I'm choosing the people that I'm choosing, or I chose the people that I chose, or and that goes from relationships to even friendships. You know, just me looking back and seeing the environment that I was in as a kid, how it cultivated my mind to now accept or reject certain things as an adult. Yeah. So I feel like that's what I'm dealing with in 2025. Is just reviving myself and rebirth. Right.
I feel like for me, I feel like I'm getting feeling back. I was a very numb person. Okay. Like, don't feel it, don't care. Nothing phases me. And I'm like having feelings now. And I'm like, why am I having all of these feelings? Like, why am I excited? Yeah. Oh my gosh, I wanna, like, why am I feeling these? It's just very weird.
It's connected to healing.
Yeah, and I'm like, and every time I feel something, because I've been so numb, I've also been closed off to my husband. So now I'm like, so let me tell you about this new feeling that I'm having. Like, let me tell you about this thing. And then, but I always have to start with like, but don't do too much. Because I'm like, no, because it's so much for me. I don't want it. Yes. So I feel like I get it's too much. Okay, and I'm like, just let me share. Don't get hyped with me.
Okay. Give her time. It's one step at a time.
Let me be hyped by myself. And you just go, okay, girl. I don't know.
But do you feel like having a baby is what brought that out? Or do you feel like your marriage? Or do you feel like just your relationship with Christ is what?
I think it's the baby, because after having her, I started having just the postpartum emotions, right? Like, all through my pregnancy, for the most part, I was pretty okay. So I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm doing it. And then after having her, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad. I'm so this. Like, why am I so angry? And I didn't really want a girl, to be honest with you. But when I look at her, and now she's, you know, nursing is also like another connection. So she's just like always looking at me. And so I feel like that's my reminder of like, get it together. Because then you're replicating, you know, another woman that's numb, that's don't know how to express
she
her
just
feelings.
Blew my mind,
and I'm like, I can't do that to her because she didn't ask to be here.
Yes.
So I don't even deserve to do that to her. Like, she's so happy, right? So when I see how bubbly she is and she's so affectionate, because even my husband, he's like, you are really affectionate now. But it's because it's like, she doesn't deserve that. And it's not just for her, but I feel like she was my reminder, or just like notification on some like, you gotta check these areas.
I just want to add real quick, I know you want to say something, is that like Jace's name means to heal, and that was like literally when I was pregnant, someone had called me and they was like, I have a name for your son, and then another friend from the Bronx called me and they both gave me the same name. When I looked it up and I said to heal, and I was like, yo God, it literally like brought me back, and I was like, okay, this time I need a healing, but I need a root healing, you know? And I think that's what I thought about when you were talking about your baby girl, was that God intends, like our kids, like we have kids, and it's like we're giving life, but they don't understand that they give us back. Like, and there's a healing process that is necessary in bringing and raising our children, because if not, then the things become generational. Like, it's big time.
And the names are like not a joke, right? Like, Aurora's name means dawn. That's like the beginning, new life, right? And so when we say it's like, okay, she's our new beginning, not just like a person, but like a new beginning for our family. So good.
What made me even ask you that question, because when I heard what Mish said, and then I know that I feel that way too, like even with my boys, like having 3 boys, I think about it all the time, like these are going to be men that go out into the world. And then when we sit back and we think about the things that we dealt with, I sit back and I think like, who raised these people? You know? So I honestly like, no, for real. So it makes me think all the time, like who I show up for my kids determine who they go out to be, right? So even when you said it, that's what made me ask you, like, do you feel like it's your child? Because I do feel like kids have a way of exposing things, but God has a way of sending them to expose it for us to become a better version of ourselves.
But only if we want to be, right? Because the reality is, like when I was pregnant with Aurora, I would feel myself getting angry, and she would kick me, and then I would like calm down, right? But if I didn't explore more and have a willingness of like, I don't like the way I'm showing up. Instead of like, oh well, this is just who I am. Like y'all just get this and y'all could go sit down, right? Because like that's the people who raise those people. Those people that's not willing to do the work, because it's also hard. And so like when these things start to expose, like you gotta face some hard stuff that people are not willing to face, or even have a space to share that.
You know, for me, one thing that really checked my parenting was when I saw how I was my parents, and then I kind of saw my daughter, like some of the anger, some of like the generational stuff, like some of the opinion towards men. I saw it on her, right? Because of her relationship with her dad, and I was just like, wait, no, I have issues. She got issues. My mom got. We all got issues. It's just too many issues. Right. Somebody got to stop the issues in Jesus' name, you know. And then I literally see so many times, like in my own kids and my own like journey, like things that have happened to my mom, and I literally saw some of the same things play out, and I'm like, why is this, like, literally, like, it was like a mirror, and it was like, no, like, when you talk about generational stuff, it's so real, because I don't just see it in my kids, I see it in myself and my mom, and I think back of some of the things I saw her go through, and we lived through, and I'm like, wait, why is it happening again? You know?
Y'all gotta talk.
I mean, you were doing that.
Right? I'm sitting here listening because we literally was just talking about before that not that I'm afraid of motherhood, but it's like this apprehension because I just don't. This world is so foreign to me. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it was foreign to y'all before y'all, you know, did what y'all did. But like it was. That's about what we did. I'ma just shut up. No, but this is beautiful. I think what's so awesome about this conversation is that we all have different dynamics, and we can all just sit and think about what this looks like the lessons behind the things that we value, the things that we need to see as boundaries, the things as expectations, what shape those expectations, like how do we now move forward as wives, moms, you know, it being single, dating, divorce, all of the things, right? Like what does that look like for us? And I just want the takeaway for the people to just be that no matter what the status is, you know, wherever you are right now, you have the opportunity to take all the L's, and we're not saying losses, we're saying lessons, right? All of the L's of 2024, and bring the lessons into 25 and say, this is what I'm going to do differently. Like, you can do that. You don't have to wait for somebody to tell you. You don't have to wait until you mess up again. Like, standards, expectations, boundaries, do that for yourself so that 25 could be a year of healthy relationships.
And don't just point the finger.
Yes.
Point it back at you. Don't just create boundaries for people and stand with people, but also how you want to show up to people is important.
Yeah. I love that. We could wrap it up right here.
Agreed.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll definitely catch you next time.
Bye, guys.